Hello everyone, this is 3D Printed Animatronic Creature Part 31 Sculpt Testing. Now, I took the canvas into ZBrush and I started just doodling. Now, it's something quick. I just wanted to do some testing, see if I can get my measurements right, and testing on, ZBrush and Blender and SketchUp. Now, I do these little doodles on these sculpting, just kind of not get too high poly, and just see what I can do. If it gets too high, I can do that decimation in ZBrush. But as you see here, I'm just doing some testing with some sculpting. Now, this is not complete, so just bear with me there. But I'm working on it and just trying to keep this thin, but not too thin, and surely not too thick. But here I'll just testing on so-called nose, make it a little bit different looking, and this is like a kind of an alien hybrid thing, and I'm not going to put any kind of a ear lobe or anything like that, and this is going to help in the mold design too, and that's going to be like later on. But as you see here, my thickness is still kind of thick here, but I want to bring it into Blender, and I'm just checking. I'm double checking all the core things and stuff, and when I have this transferred into the other core that doesn't have the animatronic on it, it just has the eyes and the eyelids and the so-called mouthpiece. And just making some adjustments just to see if I can put this into SketchUp, but I go back and I do that decimation to where I reduce it because I'm up there in the 2 million area as far as just to reduce the polygons. Because, in printing this, I mean, you can print pretty large files, but you are limited on what kind of slicer you use. And I mean, you can go on up there pretty high, but my main thing is right now is I'm just trying to, get this going as far as measurements are going to be correct. But as you see here, my core is correct. It's 250 by 250 by 250 according to what I did a STL file of the core into ZBrush, and it recognized it being that large. And once again, ZBrush don't like anything too large. You got to make adjustments to your brushes. And once again, I'm no master at ZBrush. I mean, ZBrush is a pretty huge program. And as far as Blender, I've done a lot with Blender, but I'm not a master at any of these software. I don't claim to be, but I've just put a lot of work and learning these as far as my workflow. But as you see here, I mean, this is in Blender, and see, in Blender they don't like large things too, and you got to so-called up the, I guess the whole frame of things to where if it's too large, it won't appear. You have to make adjustments to the so-called visual look of it. But I was able to import it into SketchUp after, reducing some of the polys so I can see this. And but it's coming along. But I just wanted to show you this. Now the canvas is still on there, so I'm just comparing the canvas to the sculpture. But as you see here, I'm going to move this the canvas and put it back in its position. But eventually I'm going to have this all worked out where the canvas will be available to my engineers on my Patreon, and then they can sculpt what they would like to sculpt on it as far as their creature if they would like. But my main thing is that we got to make sure that the thickness of the silicone is the right thickness. You cannot have it too thick. Now, you couldn't put a muzzle on this because it's not matched up to the so-called core. You're still limited on what you can sculpt on this because the skin is going to be soft, but if your skin is if it's too firm, it's not going to move it. It's going to have the raincoat effect. And this is what I'm trying to avoid. I want a realistic looking creature. And I'm going to show you what I've done here. And then when I do a cutaway right here, you're going to see the thickness of the mouth area, and it's going to be somewhat too thick. And I'm checking these things just to show you the thickness. And this is roughly like 5 millimeters thickness, if not a little more, on the top of the head. And I'm going to want to reduce that too. And as you see the thickness here around the brows, a lot of this can change, but right here around the lip area, upper lip and the lower lip, need to be reduced, because the skin's going to be soft enough where it will be moving the inside more than it would the outside. So I'm going to make adjustments to that. But the key is the skin. Now, no printer can print the skin. It's too soft. And I'm going to show you some of the skin right here. And someone commented the other day about skin being printed, and it's not going to be printed. And the reason is because the skin that we're going to be using is going to be way too soft. Now, I've done a number of tests on skin. Now, this is dragon skin. Now, this piece right here is going to what we're going to be using to mold the sculpture, so we can cast the skin into this. Now, the skin that I have, the other skin that I have in my hand, which is this dragon skin 20, and the 20 is standing for the shore, and that's the softest of the silicone. Now, the mold material, the blue one, it's a shore of 30. Now, this is also dragon skin. It's just too thick. Now, we're going to be using a skin called EcoFlex 10, and it's really, really soft. Now, you could realize that there's no way to print anything like this. Now, maybe later on we might be able to, but not now. But you can see the flexibility of this being more like human skin or natural skin, and it has a good flexibility. And this is why you need to hug the so-called core well, and then it's going to hug the animatronic correctly to give a more realistic look. But this is what we're going to probably be using. Now, there's other silicones available. I mean, this is Smooth On, and then the other brand is Polytech, and they have a lot of good silicone also. But we're going to be using, products from Smooth On. But I just wanted to show you that how this skin has to be, because if you go too thick, it's going to have the raincoat effect. It's not going to look realistic. It has to be soft, and the thickness is the key. And these thicknesses here is anywhere from 4 to 3 millimeters. But but what I did here, this is what I'm working on now. I brought the sculpture back into ZBrush, and I made some changes to the lip. As you see here, I did in the sculpting program in Blender, I pushed it down some, the nose area, to not make it so thick. And then after I did that, I brought it back into SketchUp, and I'll show you the big difference here. But I'm able to manipulate this by going back and forth between SketchUp and Blender. That way I can make adjustments even when I set this as far as the mold part. But as you see here, I reduced the thickness of the lip and even the lower lip too, because I actually wanted to capture the lip itself, because that way it can pull it up. But I still need to make adjustments to the back of this. Now, once again, this is not the final sculpt, but just to show you that there's going to be some areas here that's going to need to be thicker, because I don't want it to be, 4 to 5 millimeters would be fine in the back. But overall, it's coming along, and as far as testing, this is really helpful. I'm planning on upgrading my computer, because I could probably get a lot more power out of the computer to be able to work on some of this, SketchUp being CAD. But as you see here, I can get in different angles to look at my thicknesses, and then that will help also. But once again, I'm also working on editing tonight the Patreon video on how to put the mouth part of the animatronic together, a little bit better video for my Patreons that are engineers. But look, I hope y'all enjoyed this, and thank you for the thumbs up, new subscribers, and the comments, and it really helps the channel. But thanks a lot, y'all. Have a good one. Later.